Lululemon's premium image is hiding something, and it's not pretty. The brand that built its empire on wellness and mindfulness has a side most customers never see, because it's buried under soft lighting, yoga language, and price tags that make you assume everything behind the scenes must be just as premium. In this video, we're exposing what Lululemon doesn't spell out when you're dropping serious money on leggings, how the brand uses community and wellness culture to earn your trust, what that premium price is actually paying for, and the uncomfortable questions about production and sustainability that the vibe conveniently distracts you from. And this matters to you because you're not just buying fabric, you're buying a promise that this is the better choice. The problem is, if that promise is built on marketing more than reality, you could be funding a system you'd never support if you saw it clearly. Stay with me, because once you see how the Lululemon machine really works, from the psychology that makes you feel like you need the brand to what's happening beyond the store walls, you'll never look at premium the same way again. The wellness halo, how Lululemon makes you feel safe before you even buy anything. Walk into a Lululemon store and notice how your body reacts. The atmosphere is designed to lower your guard. It's clean, it's curated. It feels less like shopping and more like stepping into a calm, organized version of Life One, where your knees don't crack when you stand up. The staff isn't pushing products like a mall kiosk. They're friendly in that relaxed, we're all on a journey kind of way. Even the brand language is gentle. Everything is community, movement, mindfulness, intentional. It's retail, but spiritually moisturized. This is the first thing Lululemon doesn't tell customers. The product isn't the only thing being engineered. Your emotional state is too. Because when a brand builds a wellness halo around itself, it creates a silent assumption that it's more responsible than other clothing companies, that it's somehow better, cleaner, kinder, more aligned. You're not just buying fabric, you're buying into a narrative where you, the customer, feel like a person who makes good choices. And once you feel that, you stop questioning the basics. You stop asking, where was this made? Who made it? Under what conditions? What's the real environmental cost? You start trusting the vibe, and the vibe is doing a lot of heavy lifting. The genius is that it doesn't feel manipulative, it feels comforting, it feels like self-care. And for many shoppers, it genuinely feels like a reward for trying to be healthy, trying to stay consistent, trying to show up for yourself. But that's also why criticism hits so hard when it surfaces, because it doesn't just threaten a product's reputation, it threatens the emotional story people attach to it. The price tag illusion, how premium pricing changes your brain. Now let's talk about the part everyone pretends not to notice until their bank app sends them a notification like, hey bestie, you okay? Lululemon prices like a luxury brand. And that pricing doesn't just reflect the product, it creates the product's perceived value. Expensive things don't just look better. They feel better because your brain fights to justify the purchase. You buy a premium pair of leggings, and suddenly you start interpreting everything as proof you made a smart decision. The fabric feels advanced. The fit feels supportive. The stitching feels technical. You're not even lying, you genuinely feel it, because your mind is now motivated to protect you from buyer's remorse. This is not a character flaw. It's human psychology. Premium pricing works especially well when paired with a wellness identity. The story becomes, this isn't just clothes. This is an investment in the best version of me. And an investment is harder to question than an impulse buy. But here's what Lululemon doesn't tell customers. A high price does not automatically equal high ethics. It doesn't automatically mean fair wages. It doesn't automatically mean low environmental harm. It doesn't automatically mean the people behind the product are thriving. Sometimes it just means the brand has mastered positioning. And Lululemon's positioning is elite because it's subtle. It isn't loud branding, screaming for attention. The logo is small, almost whispered. It signals, if you know, you know. That's a different kind of quiet status. The kind that blends into normal for people who live inside that world. So when you pay Lululemon prices, you're paying for multiple things at once. The product, the experience, the identity, the reassurance, the social signaling. The only problem is that most customers think they're paying primarily for quality and values. And that's where the next part starts to matter. Behind the seam, the parts of production you'll never see. In a mirror selfie. Clothing is one of the easiest things in the world to buy without seeing the human story behind it. You see a folded stack of leggings, you see clean packaging, you see perfect lighting. You don't see the chain of labor that got it there, the people cutting, stitching, dyeing, packing, shipping. You don't see the factories or the production deadlines or the pressure that comes with serving a global demand machine. And Lululemon is a global demand machine. Like most major apparel brands, Lululemon relies on an international network of suppliers and factories. That's not unusual. It's how the industry works. But the way modern supply chains are structured comes with a built-in problem. Distance creates deniability. When production is distributed across regions and filtered through layers of vendors, a brand can claim standards while still being separated from what happens day to day on the ground. To be fair, many brands, Lululemon included, publicly talk about codes of conduct and supplier expectations. The question isn't whether policies exist, it's whether reality consistently matches the policies across every facility every time. And this is what customers are rarely told clearly. Audits aren't magic. Inspections can be scheduled. Paperwork can be cleaned up. Workplaces can be staged. Workers can be coached on what to say. That doesn't mean every audit is fake. It means audits are not the same thing as visibility. They are snapshots. And companies are very good at managing snapshots. The broader apparel industry has faced repeated allegations over the years involving low wages, excessive overtime, and unsafe conditions in various production regions. Athleisure doesn't float above those risks just because it uses words like mindful and community. If anything, performance apparel adds complexity, special materials, specific construction, constant demand for new drops and restocks. Customers often assume premium price equals premium treatment behind the scenes. But supply chains don't work like fairy tales. They work like pressure systems, and the pressure always flows downward. Transparency without clarity, the information gap that protects the brand. Here's the tricky thing about corporate transparency. It can exist and still not tell you much. A brand can publish reports, it can announce commitments, it can create a sustainability page with soothing design and serious-sounding language. But customers still might not get the details that actually matter, like how much of the supply chain is fully traceable, how overtime is monitored in practice, or what consequences suppliers face when standards are violated. This doesn't mean a company is automatically hiding a crime scene. It means the system is built so that customers receive a narrative, not a map. And when you don't have a map, you can't verify. That's part of why wellness brands are so powerful. The message isn't trust the data. The message is trust the feeling. And if the feeling is strong enough, most people don't go looking for anything else. Sustainability. When green words sound good, but the math gets messy. Now let's talk about sustainability, because this is where modern brands have become extremely skilled. The language of sustainability is everywhere now. Lower impact, responsibly sourced, recycled materials, progress over perfection. It's comforting language. It tells the customer, you can keep shopping and still be a good person. But the uncomfortable truth is that sustainability in fashion has a fundamental enemy: volume. Even if a company improves certain materials or reduces some packaging waste or launches programs meant to help, those actions don't automatically cancel out the environmental footprint of producing and selling huge amounts of clothing year after year. And athleisure has its own complicated footprint, because performance clothing often relies on synthetic blends. Those materials are popular. For a reason, they stretch, they hold, they wick moisture, they bounce back. But synthetic fabrics are tied to fossil fuel-based production, and, in many cases, shed microfibers during washing tiny particles that can end up in waterways. Most customers aren't told that plainly at the point of sale. They're told a story: better fabric, better performance, better choice. The truth is more nuanced. Performance can come with trade-offs. So the question becomes, if a brand positions itself as wellness forward and values forward, how clearly does it communicate those trade-offs? How much does it educate the customer beyond feel-good messaging? Because if sustainability messaging becomes mostly a mood, customers can end up believing they're making a good choice without ever understanding the real impact of constant production and consumption. And that's not a customer failure. That's an information design choice. The quiet exclusivity. Who feels welcome in Lululemon's world? This part matters, and it's not about drama. It's about lived experience. Lululemon has historically been associated with a very specific aesthetic: clean, polished, aspirational. And while the brand has broadened over time, many consumers still describe Lululemon's vibe as a little selective, not always intentionally, not always explicitly, but culturally. Because brands don't only communicate through policies or statements, they communicate through atmosphere. Who is centered in the marketing? What bodies are most common in the brand's visual world? What kind of lifestyle is treated as normal? What does the in-store experience subtly reward? What does it quietly discourage? Even when a brand expands sizing or features more diverse campaigns, customers can still feel a gap between messaging and reality. One campaign can't instantly rewrite years of brand identity. And some shoppers report that the in-store culture can feel intimidating, like you're walking into a space that expects you to already belong. This matters because Lululemon isn't just selling leggings, it's selling an image of wellness. And if wellness starts to look like a certain body type, a certain class, a certain lifestyle, then health turns into a status symbol. Wellness should not feel like a club, but when it's marketed like a club, people either chase entry or quietly decide it wasn't made for them. Neither outcome is neutral. The premium promise. What happens when the product doesn't feel premium? Now, here's the tension that sparks a lot of consumer frustration, and it's emotional as much as it's practical. When you pay premium prices, you aren't only paying for a product, you're paying for certainty, you're paying for trust, you're paying for the belief that you won't have to think about it again. So, when customers experience issues pilling, seams that don't hold, fabric that doesn't age well, inconsistent sizing, it doesn't feel like a normal clothing annoyance. It feels like a broken promise. Because the brand didn't just sell you leggings, it sold you confidence in your purchase. And when that confidence cracks, people start asking sharper questions. Not just, is the quality slipping, but what am I actually paying for? If the price is premium, the values are premium, the messaging is premium, the store experience is premium, then customers expect the entire system behind it to be premium too. Not perfect, just aligned. And when it's not aligned, shoppers feel that weird emotional whiplash. Wait, this brand that talks like a wellness guide is acting like a normal corporation? Which leads straight into the most important part of this whole conversation. The thing they don't say out loud. The brand is a mirror you're meant to believe in. Lululemon doesn't need to tell you, this is who you should be. It just builds a world where you start telling yourself that. A world where buying the product feels like progress, where treat yourself becomes invest in yourself, where wellness becomes something you can purchase in a shade called soft sand or storm teal or whatever name sounds like. It came from a meditation app, and that's why this topic matters, because once you attach your self-image to a brand, even a little bit, you become easier to guide, easier to upsell, easier to keep inside the loop, not because you're weak, because the branding is strong. And the next part of this story is where it gets personal, because the biggest thing Lululemon doesn't tell customers isn't about store lighting or sustainability language or premium pricing. It's what happens after you buy into the wellness identity, when self-care quietly becomes a status chase, and the brand starts shaping your decisions more than you realize. When self-care turns into a uniform you're expected to wear. At first, it's just one piece, one pair of leggings because the fit is flattering, and you're tired of adjusting your waistband like you're negotiating peace. Treaties mid-workout. You wear them once, you like them, and suddenly the idea of going back to your old gear feels like downgrading from first class to the cargo hold. Then something sneaks in. You start noticing how often Lululemon shows up in the places where wellness happens. The yoga studio, the Pilates class, the run club, the smoothie bar, the airport terminal where everyone is dressed like they might spontaneously break into a sunrise hike. And it's not that anyone says anything to you directly, it's subtler than that. It's the vibe, the quiet assumption that this is what you wear when you're serious about movement, when you're that girl, when you've got your life together enough to own matching sets, even if your life is currently held together by caffeine and denial. This is where Lululemon's power becomes less about fabric and more about social gravity. The clothes become shorthand for a lifestyle, a signal that you belong in a certain world, disciplined, balanced, productive, glowing. And once a product becomes a signal, it stops being a simple purchase. It becomes part of your identity management. You're not just buying something comfortable, you're buying something that tells a story about you, sometimes to other people, but often to yourself. And that's the part customers don't always catch in real time. When you start wearing the brand as a symbol of who you're trying to become, you also start treating it like a requirement. And requirements are expensive. The drop effect. Why you start buying like you're racing a timer. Then comes the next stage. You start shopping differently, not because anyone forced you, because the brand trained you. Lululemon has a very specific way of making products feel urgent, without screaming limited time offer, like a desperate internet ad. Certain colors come and go. Some sizes disappear fast. You tell yourself you'll think about it, and then it's gone. And when it's gone, it doesn't just feel like a normal missed purchase. It feels like you missed an opportunity. That's scarcity psychology. It takes something ordinary and turns it into a tiny emotional event. Suddenly you're not asking, do I need this? You're asking, what if I never see it again? And the wild part is how quickly your behavior adapts. You start checking the site more often. You start browsing just to see what's new. You start buying sooner than you planned because waiting feels risky. Some people even start thinking in resale logic, like a pair of leggings is a stock portfolio. The system doesn't need to tell you to hurry. It just needs to create enough moments where waiting costs you. And after a few of those, your brain stops seeing shopping as a calm decision and starts seeing it as a game of timing. You know that feeling when you see your size is low stock, and suddenly your finger develops a mind of its own and clicks add to cart like it's defending you from danger? That's the drop effect, and it turns treat yourself into a habit you don't fully notice until you're standing in front of your closet thinking, why do I own 4 versions of the same thing in slightly different shades of emotional stability? The influencer pipeline, when an ad doesn't look like an ad. Now we need to talk about how Lululemon stays glued to culture without feeling like it's trying. Because the most effective marketing doesn't look like marketing anymore. It looks like lifestyle content. A creator films a morning routine and happens to be wearing Lululemon. Someone does a Pilates vlog and casually tags it. A wellness influencer links a matching set like it's as essential as water. It doesn't feel like pressure. It feels like a recommendation from someone you trust. And that's why it works. When you see Lululemon in a regular commercial, you can recognize it as an ad. Your brain has defenses. But when you see it in a day in my life video, your brain processes it differently. It feels like witnessing reality. The product becomes normalized. You don't think, they're selling to me. You think, this is what people wear. And if you want to be part of that world, you start matching the uniform. That's the pipeline visibility disguised as normal life. Even if it's curated life, even if the morning routine starts at 11:30 a.m. and includes a sponsored matcha, even if the person filming it has never experienced a sweaty workout in their entire existence, the aesthetic still lands. And here's the thing, Lululemon doesn't need every influencer to be paid directly for it to work. It thrives on aspirational association. It benefits when people voluntarily attach it to wellness, discipline, and self-improvement. The brand becomes the default costume for looking like you're thriving. So customers aren't just buying leggings, they're buying entry into a visual language. And once you understand that, you realize how the brand shapes demand without ever looking like it's demanding anything. The body pressure nobody mentions when wellness becomes a performance. This is where the story gets real, because it stops being about shopping and starts being about psychology. A lot of people come to wellness seeking freedom from stress, from insecurity, from feeling out of control. But modern wellness culture can flip on you. It can quietly become another performance. The performance of being healthy, looking healthy, living healthy in a way that's aesthetically pleasing. And clothing plays a bigger role in that than most people admit, because athleisure isn't just workout gear anymore. It's what people wear to brunch, to run errands, to travel, to exist in public as a statement. I take care of myself. But take care of myself can get tangled with look like I take care of myself. And once that happens, the outfit isn't just fabric, it's armor. Lululemon's branding doesn't directly tell you to chase perfection. It doesn't have to. The culture around it can do that on its own. If the brand's universe is consistently associated with a polished version of wellness, some customers will start treating the product like a prerequisite to feeling legitimate, and that can create a quiet, heavy pressure. If I don't look like the wellness girl, am I even doing wellness right? That's a brutal thought to carry around. People don't talk about it because it sounds dramatic, but it shows up in small ways. Hesitation before going to class because you don't feel presentable, feeling like you need the right outfit to start a fitness routine, feeling exposed in older clothes that don't match the aesthetic. And the worst part? A brand can profit from that insecurity while still calling it empowerment, because empowerment sells better than insecurity, especially when the insecurity is hidden under the word motivation. When premium expectations meet mass reality. Now let's go back to the product itself, not to rehash the price conversation, but to talk about what customers experience when the premium promise doesn't match the day-to-day reality. Lululemon Lululemon has built a reputation so strong that customers expect near perfection. When you pay premium prices, you're not just paying for comfort, you're paying for confidence that the item will hold up, perform, and feel worth it over time. So when customers run into issues, fabric pilling, seams unraveling, items losing shape faster than expected, it creates a specific kind of outrage. Not just, ugh, annoying, but wait, I rearranged my budget for this. Because premium purchases come with a mental contract. The brand is basically saying, pay more, think less, you'll be safe here, you won't have to gamble. And when that contract feels broken, people don't just feel disappointed, they feel played. That's why complaints about quality hit harder for Lululemon than they would for a cheaper brand. If a $15 pair of leggings disappoints you, you shrug. If a premium pair disappoints you, you feel insulted. And once customers feel insulted, they start paying attention. They start comparing. They start reading reviews. They start noticing inconsistencies. They start wondering if the brand's growth, more products, more launches, more expansion has quietly made it harder to maintain the same level of consistency across everything. The brand doesn't tell customers this part. When a company scales, the challenge isn't just making more, it's keeping everything equal. And when customers sense slipping consistency, the brand's biggest weapon, trust, takes a hit. The dupes era. The moment people start asking, is this worth it? Then came the dupe era, and it changed the conversation. For years, Lululemon's premium status was protected by the belief that nothing truly compared. But now, the market is flooded with alternatives that look close, feel close, and cost dramatically less. And once a shopper tries a dupe and realizes it meets their needs, something happens that's hard to reverse. They start seeing the price tag differently. Not everyone will switch, and not every dupe is equal, but the psychological shift is real. The moment a shopper feels like they can get most of the experience without the premium cost, the brand narrative weakens. Because worth it is a feeling, not a fact. And feelings change fast when people are stressed financially. When rent is up, groceries are up, and life feels expensive in every direction. The question becomes sharper. Am I paying for performance, or am I paying for the story? And that's where brand loyalty becomes fragile. Not because people suddenly hate the product, but because they stop seeing it as a no-brainer. They start seeing it as a choice they can opt out of. And if enough people start opting out, even occasionally, the brand doesn't lose customers overnight. It loses momentum. It loses cultural inevitability. It starts to feel optional. That is the scariest thing. A premium lifestyle brand can become optional. The part customers don't hear. Wellness isn't something you should have to purchase. Here's the heart of the issue. Lululemon has done something brilliant. It positioned itself close to well-being, close to empowerment, confidence, movement, personal growth. Those are deep human desires. And when a brand sits next to those desires, it gains emotional power. But well-being does not belong to a brand. Movement is not a luxury product. Self-care is not a price point. And the moment anyone feels like they need a premium uniform to be valid in a fitness space, something has gone sideways. Not because people are wrong for enjoying nice clothing, but because the culture has started confusing wellness with consumption. That's what Lululemon doesn't spell out. The brand benefits when you treat becoming your best self as something that requires ongoing purchases. A new drop to match your new mindset, a new set to match your new routine, a new colorway to match the new version of you you're trying to unlock. But real well-being doesn't require a logo. It requires consistency, support, rest, and a relationship with your body that isn't dependent on aesthetic approval. And that's why this conversation matters. Because when customers see the mechanics clearly, they regain control. They stop letting the brand drive the timeline of their self-improvement. They start choosing based on what serves them, not what sells them a feeling. So what now? A smarter way to look at the brand without demonizing yourself. This isn't about shaming anyone for loving Lululemon. Plenty of people genuinely enjoy the fit and feel. If you found pieces that last, that support your workouts, and that make you feel confident, that's not something to dismiss. The point is awareness. If you're paying premium prices, you deserve premium honesty about production realities, about environmental trade-offs, about how marketing shapes behavior, and about how wellness can be used as a glossy wrapper for normal corporate goals. And on a personal level, it's worth asking yourself one simple question. Am I buying this because it helps my life, or because it helps my image of my life? That question doesn't ruin the fun. It just puts you back in charge. So now I want to hear from you. Has Lululemon ever made you feel like you were upgrading yourself just by buying the clothes? Have you ever felt that subtle pressure to look like you belong in wellness spaces, like the outfit was part of the entry fee, or do you feel the quality really does justify the price and the brand gets unfairly targeted? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments, no judgment. And if this video made you look at Lululemon differently, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who still thinks it's just leggings, because the more we understand what brands don't tell customers, the harder it is for them to hide behind the vibe.